morning. Good morning, guys. How's my volume this morning? How's the volume? Morning, Tucson. Good to see you, Peter. My brother Jeff is on. Good morning, Jeff. Donald is on. Jay out there in Hawaii. Good morning. Alan, Mr. Alan Kelly up there in Virginia is on. My lovely bride, Miss Lisa. My goodness, Jay, it is early where you are, sir. Thanks to the 13 folks that are joining me. Before we get started, just making sure I'm set up here. How do you guys like the backdrop here? It's a little bit better than my office, hopefully, and a little bit better than my kitchen. So let me know what you think about that. Please like and share. We got this is Emerging Threats Monday, man. Emerging Threats Monday to your, I guess, emerging threats to your safety and security. And we're going to talk about something pretty cool this morning. Good morning, Bob. Good to see you. All right, please like and share, and we will get started here in just a second. Sure all the notes are together. Alan says, good morning, 1571. And I think most of the people on here are COIN members. If you're not a COIN member of the American Warrior Society, we'll have to brief you in on that, let you know what that's all about. Mr. James Vick is on. Good morning. Ronald Dodd. Nice to see you, Ronald. Good to have you on. Okay, we've got 19 folks. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, Rich. I see you there. Like I said, good morning, Emerging Threats Monday. My name is Rich Brown. I wanted to welcome you guys this morning to my new little studio. I know we did Coffee with Rich Friday morning with my son here. But this morning we're going to talk about emerging threats. You know, last Monday we talked about threats to our electrical grid from cybersecurity and cyber attacks and some other things. This morning we're going to talk about home fires. It's something near and dear to my heart because when I spent time with the American Red Cross as the regional manager for disaster preparedness, I was also on a disaster assistance team when I first started, and I was responding to a lot of home fires, and I got intimately familiar with how awful and destructive these things can be. And then when I managed the entire state of Tennessee, I ran this, we had a campaign to see which state could install the most smoke alarms. And right here in the state of Tennessee, me and my team led the nation. And we should, because Tennessee, man, was one of the deadliest states for home fires. So I went into a lot of communities, disadvantaged communities in the inner city, and then we went into trailer parks, led teams all across the state to do this, and it's something that's very, very important. But before we get started, please like and share. Sponsor for today's show, Emerging Threats Monday, is the American Warrior Society. Shocker if you couldn't already figure that out. AmericanWarriorSociety.com is absolutely free. It's where you can get hundreds of articles written by subject matter experts in any number of self-defense related topics, from your own physical safety and security to your digital security, handguns, shotguns, fire. All those articles are absolutely free. And then we have the American Warrior Show, America's leading self-defense show. Check that out. Hundreds and hundreds of shows, hundreds of hours of content. Please go back and listen to some of those, especially some of the ones in the archives, man. Some people we were able to get on them that don't really do many shows nowadays, and that may be the last material you ever get out of them. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that stuff is available. If you want to check out the Training Vault, get access to all the premium content, it doesn't cost you anything for the first 14 days. If you don't like what you see, send me an email. I'll take you off. I'm having Pete's Espresso this morning out of my Guinness mug. I got this at St. James Gate in Dublin. back in January. It's crazy, man. It's hard to believe. I was in Ireland in January, and now here we are. It seemed like it was a year ago or more with all the coronavirus stuff that's going on. Anyway, let's see who's on this morning before we get into house fires and why you need to worry about them. Ronald says, what part of Tennessee are you in? I'm on the Cumberland Plateau, Ronald, in the beautiful county of Cumberland County. Let's see. Wade says, good morning, Rich, and everyone else. Coin number 1871. Gilly says, good morning, guys. Elaine is on. Matt is on. Says, good morning, Rich. Thanks for doing this and providing good and helpful info. Donald says, I can hear we have lots of fires here in Texas because of meth labs. Whew, how tragic. So, like I said, house fires. The reason I decided to do this is because we're all in quarantine right now, or most of us are, a lot of us are. I'm a non-essential personnel now, maybe for the first time in my life. It feels pretty strange, although I think my family would hopefully decide I'm essential. But being that we're all cooped up together, it's probably a good time to train on smoke alarms because we have the time. It's also a danger because we're all packed in together. Some of the statistics I'm going to cover with you this morning on why you should be concerned with smoke alarms come from the National Fire Protection Association. And back in October of last year, they released a 5-year study from 2013 to 2017 outlining some reasons why you should be concerned about home fires. 27% of all reported fires were home fires. So that's a pretty small cohort, but then you got to figure in how many people died from fires altogether. Well, 79% of all the deaths from fires occur from home fires. So even though the cohort that they represent is relatively small, 27%, 79% of the deaths come from the home fires, and 73% of all the injuries come from home fires. So here in the United States during that 5-year period, home fires averaged to be about 354,000 home fires in the United States of America, causing on average about 2,620 deaths. So just tragic statistics. $6.9 billion worth of property damage from home fires. And I'll tell you, the cause that I saw anecdotally when I was putting my notes together for the show this morning was cooking fires. I'll tell you kind of the way it normally worked out. I would get a call saying that there'd been a home fire, or there was a home fire ongoing. Me or one of my DAT teams would go out there, and normally it would be an elderly person, disadvantaged socioeconomic class, and they had started frying some potatoes on the stove. Somebody knocks on the door. They see their dog is out. Something like that distracts them. They run outside, and their home goes up in flames. Now, I will tell you, I've been a licensed first responder, EMT. I've been a cop, a corrections officer, etc. I've never been a firefighter. I've never been a volunteer firefighter. Everything I know about home fires, I learned while leading and managing our smoke alarm campaign and working with the state fire marshals and getting smoke alarms to put in homes across Tennessee. And then because our campaign was so successful, I went and lectured on home fires, what little qualifications I had, and helped raise money for the American Red Cross. So like I said, cooking seemed to be the number one reason that I saw, and guess what? The stats bear it out. 49% of all home fires occur from cooking, 14% from heating, 10% from electrical, and 8%, I'm afraid to say, were intentional. So before I go into the 7 ways that the American Red Cross says that you can prepare for home fires, let's see who's on and what folks are saying. Please like and share and comment. Let me know where you're from, man. It's interesting to find out where some of you folks live. And if you're a coin number, man, throw your coin number up there. Let's see. Ronald says, Hamilton County here, Chattanooga. Good morning, brother. You're just down the road. Gilly says, I think I'm the only guy here not from the U.S. Where are you from, Gilly? A lot of times we'll have some Australia on here. We'll have South Africa on here. Gregory has joined us. Good morning. Rudy is on. Semper Fi, brother. Mr. George Lopez is on. Good morning, George. Gene is on. John is on. Matthew says, I've been hearing that hospitals are like ghost towns. Does that match up with your modeling? No, I haven't looked at it this morning. You know, I will tell you, I think we missed my projection yesterday. I projected 393,000. I don't think we hit that yesterday, which is a good thing. I can't wait for my model to break down. Trust me. Alan says, fire is the one thing she fears the most out of anything. Yeah, same here. You know, another thing that's near and dear to my heart, I see my cousin Roman has joined us this morning, and Roman's mother and father lost their home to a house fire a couple years ago, my aunt and uncle. I think, Roman, I don't remember, I think they heard like a lightning strike. They thought, oh my God, this must be close. They look around. House seems to be fine. Can't see any obvious damage from the outside. They go back to bed. And little do they know that it was smoldering in the attic. The house had been struck by lightning and was actually on fire, smoldering away. And a couple hours later in the middle of the night, the home was fully involved. And, you know, we lost a lot of priceless things, my family did. Some photographs that can never be gotten back. Some letters during World War II that my grandmother wrote to my grandfather. I mean, they're just gone. So home fires are horribly destructive, not in just ways that we can calculate, but some priceless things that can be lost in those terrible things here. Matt says, Southeast Ohio here. Matthew, coin number 1532. Gilly says, I'm from the Philippines. I love the Philippines, Gilly. Spent probably 2 or 3 months there as a much younger man, in and around Subic Bay, back when we had the military base there. I'm trying to see if I remembered any Tagalog phrases to say to you, but I remember like, Anong pangalan mo, which I think means, what's your name? Glad to have you from the Philippines, sir. John says, morning, Rich. Gene says, Iowa, number 70. Wow, I didn't realize your coin number was that low. Roman says, I'm right. Yeah, terrible tragedy about his mother and father's house burning to the ground. Donald, our local hospital here in Allen, Texas is extremely quiet. I hope it stays that way. Jason says, good morning from Nevada. Bill is on. Gilly says, I lost our house before because of a fire, because the neighbor forgot about the stove. Glad nobody got hurt. Man, what a tragedy. So let's talk about the 7 ways that you can prepare. Number 1, you need to install not just smoke alarms, but the right number of smoke alarms in the right locations. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, the reason why this is the number 1 thing on the list is if you have a working smoke alarm in your house, you cut your risk of dying in a fire by 50%. You cut it in half just by having smoke alarms in your home. So let's make sure we got them. Let's make sure that they work, and let's put them in the right place. Where should they be? They should be on every floor of the house. They should be inside the bedrooms and then immediately outside any sleeping areas. Let's make sure that they're what I call dual primed. You know, when I taught demolitions at the School of Infantry, dual prime meant we'd have a non-electrical firing system in the C4 or Composition B or whatever you're using, and an electrical system. So we're priming it both ways. Same thing for the smoke alarms. Let's make sure that there's a 10-year lithium battery in there, some sort of 9-volt battery, and it's hardwired to the house. And oh, by the way, when they wire them to the house, they all should be wired together so that when one goes, they all go. And once you put those smoke alarms in the right place and they're all wired up correctly and everything's working, make sure that you test them monthly. And when you're up there testing those things monthly, remove cobwebs, any kind of dust or anything that's in there, and then replace the batteries every year. Not only should you replace the batteries every year, every 10 years, let's go ahead and get those smoke alarms out and put a new one in, okay? I would also say, since you're doing that, you might as well go ahead and change the carbon monoxide detectors. And if you don't have a carbon monoxide detector, man, you need to be. Those things are terrifying. You know what the hemoglobin in your blood loves more than nice rich oxygen? It loves carbon monoxide. That's why it only takes a small amount to kill you, because the hemoglobin really bonds well to that carbon monoxide and will just carry it throughout your body. So anyway, so that's the first thing. Smoke alarms, the right number and the right place. Number 2, teach your children, teach everyone what a smoke alarm sounds like and exactly what they should do. And let's talk about what you should do. If the smoke alarm goes off at night, do not sit up in bed. Roll off the bed onto the floor. And the reason I say that is I was reading some anecdotal experiences of folks that smoke alarm goes off in the middle of the night, they sit up in bed and take a big gulp of oxygen and what they do is they inhale all those toxic fumes and it literally kills them. They never even make it out of the bed. So roll off the bed, crawl over to the doorway with the back of your hand, feel the door, but feel the knob too, man, because the knob is metal through and through. So if that knob is hot, guess what? There's a fire on the other side of that. Which is why it's important to have two ways of exiting, not just out the door, but what window are you going to crawl out of? And then if you are on fire, man, stop, drop, and roll. I know it sounds crazy. We probably learned this as a kid, but it will save your life. And it's probably important to practice it with little ones because it takes a lot of discipline to not just go take off running, but to literally stop, drop, and roll. When it comes to, I'll tell you our plan here on the farm. If there's a home fire and you roll off the bed and you crawl across the floor and you're touching the back of the door and the doorknob with the back of your hand, if it's hot, all the sleeping locations are upstairs and they all have a dormer that exits onto a large flat roof on the front of the farmhouse. So the kids' jobs are to get out onto the roof, and then my job is to go out and bring around a ladder and get them off the roof. So we've never actually tried that, but that is the plan. Maybe we'll try that today. Number 3, everyone should know 2 ways to escape. And I know I said that already, but that's actually the third thing that you need to prepare. Number 4, establish a family emergency communications plan, who they need to contact if they can't find one another. So that's also important too. And before I go into the 5th thing, let's see who's on. Gilly says I got that right. Amazing. I know, I think Hindi was no and oh is yes. And I love the Philippines. The food, the people, the weather, the country, absolutely beautiful place. Matter of fact, it was so beautiful. One of my buddies in the Marine Corps actually went back there and lives there to this day. I mean, it was enchanting little island you guys got. Paul has joined us. Gene says, need to get me one as well as new fire extinguishers too. Yeah, we're going to talk about fire extinguishers here in just a second. I got a couple to show for you. Miko is on. Good morning, Miko. Okay, number 5. On the 7 steps you can do to help prepare yourself for home fires. Number 5, practice escaping from the home twice a year. Literally, press the button and yell fire. One of the things that we're going to do, as a matter of fact, we might as well do it today since we're all sitting here in quarantine, is literally take an old black sock, tie it off around your head or put your sleep mask on and see if you can escape in the dark utilizing the things that we've done here. So it's what we used to do in the ship, man. When I was a Marine aboard a naval vessel, you know, we would from time to time tie a sock around our head and see if we could find our way out of the labyrinth of passageways and up to the flight deck. It's a good little exercise. Number 6, make sure everyone knows how to dial 911 and what to say and how to give them any kind of distinguishing marks, especially under stress. It's going to be incredibly important for the younger folks, especially in your family. And lastly, number 7, like we said before, teach them to stop, drop, and roll, especially the younger ones in your family. Make them do it. Make a game out of it so that they know what to do in the event. Thank you to the 32 people that are joining me this morning for Emerging Threats Money. We're talking about home fires, man. If you're just joining us, we talked about home fires, why they're so deadly, that only 27% of all fires in the United States are home fires, but they account for 79% of all the fatalities. And then we talked about 7 things that you can do to prepare. Now we're going to talk about a little bit more on how to fight fires. But before I tell you about how to fight a fire, let's see who's on. Miko says, good morning. Rich says, any chance of coffee with Rich regarding improvised masks, such as what materials to use and not to use to filter the air? Rich, I would love to, man. That is some difficult information. And one of the reasons why is even the N95 mask, and we talked about this before, really isn't perfect. And I don't think anything is. I have some filters that are P100s. So they filter out 99.7% of all the particulates in the air. An N95 mask that everybody, is wishing they had a lot of. I think we've only got one box of 20. Like I said, when I did the math, I know we're getting off home fire. Sorry, folks, but again, coronavirus is near and dear to our hearts right now. I did not want to raid everything and take away from the healthcare workers because I knew the national stockpile would be exhausted relatively quickly. So because I was ahead of the game in mid-February when nobody knew what COVID was, I only got one box. And so my plan is kind of like what Rich is talking about. What do I do when I run out? And I've been using them sparingly. I think we've only used one or two for our trips into town. But even those N95 masks are not perfect. The openings on those N95 masks are 3 microns wide. And the virus is 1 micron wide. So technically, almost 3 of them could fit side by side and enter the holes, those pores in the mask. So yes, you could use a scarf. I've read that guidance. It's not going to be perfect. I do keep a red bandana and an N95 mask in my get home bag. You can take that red bandana and wet it down for fires and use it as a temporary mask. It works okay. It's better than nothing because all we're trying to do is reduce the viral loading, as I understand. I'm not a virologist or an infectious disease specialist. I'm none of those things, but I'm doing a little reading on it. But we'll see what we can find out, Rich. Gilly said, glad you appreciate my country. Thank you. I love your country as well. It always feels like heaven when I visit the U.S. By the way, amazing you pronounced it well. My girlfriend is smiling after she heard you. Oh, man, that's cool. Let's see. Rudy says, good morning, Rich. Any advice about sleeping with the bedroom door closed? I sleep with the bedroom door closed myself, man. I think it's the right way to do it because it affords you the ability of some standoff with that fire and something that you can check. And again, if you have time, it's always good to wet down a towel, stuff it under the door if the door is in fact hot, just to start buying yourself time as you escape. Wet down a washcloth and put it over your nose and mouth if you have time to do that as you escape the fire. Because again, I think that a lot of people don't realize the gases in those fires are incredibly toxic. And one other thing on that, these smoke alarms are designed to detect those invisible, toxic, combustible gases as well as heat and flame. So, good morning, Andrew. He says that Rich is on fire this morning. Man, I appreciate that. Miko says, you said more than one way to escape if you're in a third floor apartment. Yeah, you need to have at least 2 ways to escape. And if you're in a third floor apartment or a second floor apartment, you need to start working on it. I don't know what your plan needs to be, but you certainly need to have one. They make those escape ladders. You can actually buy them at Lowe's. They hook onto the windowsill, and then they fold down. They have a little like a caving ladder. That might be something worthy of investing in. But I will tell you, what's better. As I was reading some of the stuff last night, literally on the Red Cross site, it said, hey, we can mend broken bones, sprained ankles, and sprained wrists if you have to jump out of a second floor window. It didn't say anything about a third. It's a lot better than smoke inhalation or burns. Something to think about. Donald says, I use my Shemagh for a mask. That'll work. Robert said, good morning. Rich said, sorry for triggering a tangent. It was your comment about using a sock to filter smoke that got me thinking about it. Yeah. Now, when I talked about putting a sock, all I'm talking about is covering your eyes so that when you're attempting to escape, it would be the same thing as if there were smoke in the room and you couldn't see. So I didn't mean to imply that you could use a sock to block out smoke. Sorry. Matthew, CDC is saying a coffee filter. I'll have to read into that. Gilly said, agreed. I think that the N95 are not perfect. I use it every day in the hospital since we need to protect ourselves. Absolutely, man. You guys out there, God bless you. Alan says, one thing for preventing a fire is to clean the dryer vents a lot. of residential fires start with a dryer vent that has not been regularly cleaned. That's so true, man. Anytime my wife says the dryer's not drying like it should be, I know that I probably need to clean the lint out of that stuff. Okay, ways to fight a fire. Before you can fight a fire, you need to know what class of fire you're dealing with. You have type A, B, C, D, and K fires. And type A fire is trash, paper, cardboard, textiles, wood, anything like that is a type A fire. B fire would be flammable liquids, diesel, gasoline, kerosene, something like that. C would be an electrical fire, something like that. D would be a combustible metal. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have a Class D fire extinguisher to talk to you about. I don't think I have any combustible metal around. If you are in an airplane, you probably do, but I don't have anything like that. I need to probably look into it. And finally, Class K fire is going to be combustible cooking medium. So like cooking oils, olive oil, vegetable oil, something like that. So let's talk about extinguishers, man. I got two of them I'm going to talk to you about. Let me get my coffee out of the way. The first one that I like, they're both of these products are made by First Alert. This is the Tundra. And the Tundra is a pretty good little fire extinguisher. I think you can pick these up for probably less than $20 at Lowe's or Home Depot. It has got a biodegradable, non-toxic accelerant inside this thing. And it is good for Class A, C, and K fires. So it won't do you any good for like gasoline to put those kind of flames out. But this is perfect for the kitchen. One of the things I like about this is compared to regular fire extinguishers, it's had 4 times the amount of extinguishing material inside of it. It really will last a lot longer than you think it will. We've actually used this twice to put out small fires at my home, and I can tell you it works incredibly well. And once we use just a little bit of it, go ahead and replace this thing. But these are good, inexpensive, have them in every room of the house. All right, let's talk about the big boy here. Like I said, this is from First Alert. This is a dry chemical. It's filled with monoammonium phosphate. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's for Class A, B, and C fires. One of the things that you want to do, especially with this, is examine them once a month when you're hitting the smoke alarm and checking it out. You probably should check out this guy right here. Make sure that it's inside the green band. Go ahead and check the hose for dry rot. Inspect the hose and inspect the nozzle to make sure that it is clear of any obstruction. And when it comes to using these, I'll go ahead and show you real quick. You want to remember the acronym PASS. Pull the pin, aim, squeeze the trigger, and sweep the fire side to side, starting at the base of the fire. So pretty simple stuff. Now, one of the other reasons why I'm very concerned with house fires, aside from the fact of my Red Cross days and leading and managing our national campaign, etc., to reduce home fires, like I said, I would go into these, me and my volunteers, we would go into these communities, and it would blow your mind. We'd literally knock on the door, hey guys, do you have any smoke alarms? We have some donated by the state of Tennessee's fire marshal. Would you like us to put up one? And I was shocked. All these children living in these homes, and you don't have a $20 smoke alarm. It was insane, but I saw it again and again and again. Not only did they not have a smoke alarm, they didn't have one of these $15 little cans of Tundra to put the flames out. So again, the time to do this training is now, while we have an opportunity to do it before the event. So again, these fires are incredibly destructive. I dealt with them a lot. When I'd go to these people that had lost everything, when I was with the Red Cross, what was I able to give them? A blanket in the middle of the night, a credit card, and drive them over to a hotel room until insurance could take over. And that's if they had insurance. Any questions for me before I let you get on with your day? I know I've kept you on here for about 30 minutes so far. Let's see what people are saying. Oh, Mr. Kevin Weber's on. Good morning, sir. Gilly says, what me and my girlfriend do, we turn off the valves on our gas tanks, on our stoves, just to make sure when we leave the house, we unplug everything except for the fridge. Not a bad idea. Kevin says, what if the roof is on fire? There might be a joke in there somewhere, but if the roof is on fire, especially at my house, guess you're going out the window, bro. Gene says, in emergency, one can use a coffee filter for toilet paper, but the coffee tastes horrible afterwards. Some levity. I appreciate that, Gene. It's pretty gross. Gilly says, we should consider having fire extinguishers at home. Yeah, man, absolutely. I live in a very rural setting. The only folks that are going to come put my fire out is going to be volunteer fire department. But because of where I live, man, it's just not going to happen. Even if I caught them on a day that they were at the station, my house is probably still going to burn down before they can get there. I also keep a 50-foot hose where we water the plants on the front porch. I keep the water turned on. If I had to, I could bring the hose inside the house and fight the fire because I really don't want to lose my home. But I also don't want to lose my life. If the house is fully involved, I'm getting out of there. I can replace everything, but I can't replace the people. John says, if you have magnesium fire starter, you have combustible metal. Yeah, I thought about that, John, and that's probably the only thing I can think of that's a combustible metal. And I do have one of those in my get home bag. Matthew says, how much does one of those big boys cost? I think I spent probably $80 on this thing. And I got the largest commercial grade fire extinguisher I could because I do live so far from getting someone to help me fight this fire. Another thing, I used to keep one of these in my Jeep, and I'm going to work one day, and I was a cop, and I'm driving down the interstate, and I see a car on fire, and I had a huge one like this, and I grab my fire extinguisher, and I go run into the flames, and I'm like, man, I can't believe this. I'm really going to use this fire extinguisher. And out of the smoke and the flame comes a fireman wearing his full bunker outfit, and he goes, oh, thanks, bro. And he took my fire extinguisher and put the flames out. And I'm like, so again, it's not just that you have it for you, you also have it for someone else as well. So if my neighbor's house gets on fire, for example, I can rush down with one of these guys and help him. Gilly says, if only my country had those $20 fire extinguishers. Yeah, it's a shame if they don't have these little Tundras. I think you can buy them on Amazon as well. So maybe check into that. Andrew says, we use our kitchen fire extinguisher to put out a fire in the microwave when my then younger daughter put a Chinese food takeout container, foiled cardboard with that thin metal handle. Yeah. Sure enough, set the cabinet-mounted microwave on fire. Would certainly have spread throughout the cabinets and walls, the entire house, but for our readily accessible, important, don't hide it when you need it. You need it right now. Kitchen fire extinguisher. Yeah, you do need it right now. That's a great lesson, Andrew. When we, since we've all kind of been shut in, I took everybody around the house, showed them where these were, just to make sure everybody knew, taught them how to use the huge fire extinguisher. We all had a class on it. Everybody's pretty well versed on all that stuff here because it's just so tragic, man, as we talked about at the beginning. Anyone else can do dry fire with the fire extinguisher, yeah. Jeff Brown says, make sure you pick up dry chemical fire extinguishers and shake them upside down to break up the powders in time. They can compress and render the extinguisher useless. Jeff, I appreciate that, man. I had heard that somewhere else, and I wasn't sure if that was legit or not, so I appreciate that, man. So I would assume from what Jeff is saying, maybe we pick those up during our monthly tasks and shake them around. If that's what you'd recommend, let us know. That's my brother Jeff Brown. He was in the Coast Guard and used to inspect boats and stuff and knows a little bit about that. Don says, fire extinguishers make great weapons. True. It's early here, brother. I know, Kevin. Kevin's out there in Las Vegas. Good to have you on this morning. Love you, pal. Matt says, I keep 3 fire extinguishers in the home, the garage, which is right outside the kitchen, downstairs, outside the furnace room, 1 downstairs in the heater room. Lots of electronics. If you could install detectors that are wired together. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning. You should have one on every level of your home, inside of every bedroom of your home, and outside every sleeping area of your home. So you need quite a few of them. And they should be dual primed. We talked about that too. They should all be wired together, and then they should have a 10-year lithium battery inside, and check them monthly. Good stuff. Kevin says it's a joke. It's a joke, all right. Jeff says also people are making their homes too safe from break-ins, that they are trapping themselves inside home during fire. Yeah, that's a concern, man. I worry about that too. Gene says, sorry to gross you out. Chuck has joined us. Good morning, Chuck. Scott says, let's see. Z, good morning. Hope you're doing well up there in New York. Kelly says, when I get back to the U.S., I'm getting some of that Tundra. Cool. Monthly tap the bottom of the extinguishers with a rubber mallet. Kevin, I love you, buddy. Good to have you on this morning. Hope you're out there having a good time in Vegas. Scott, when the inspector does his yearly check on yours at work, we'll tap them on the bottom with a rubber mallet. Okay. I never heard of that, man. Pretty cool. Okay, listen, guys, that's all I've got. I've had you on here for 39 minutes on Emerging Threats Monday. We talked about home fires. We talked about why we need to be concerned with home fires. We talked about the number one thing that causes home fires are cooking fires. We talked about the 7 things that you can do to prepare for home fires. And then we talked a little bit about how to fight home fires. Hopefully you've enjoyed this Emerging Threats Monday. Next Monday, we'll have another great show for you. You know, last week, if you missed that show, go back and watch it. It's pretty interesting. We talked about how vulnerable our power grid is. This week, we talked about home fires. And next week, we're going to talk about something equally threatening to your safety and security. That's all I've got, folks. Thank you for joining me this morning. Remember, the fight is coming. Be ready.